I teach my students not to learn definitions of communication by heart. And there is a good reason for that. I encourage them to be self-aware, to understand what it is to be human, with all the intricacies of going to their higher selves or to the bottom of what it means to be human in many different ways. And I would like to bring a very special spotlight, once again, thanking our speakers for their narratives, for their heartwarming and hopeful stories too. And this is a moment to share Armenia's story. I would like to invite Karni Karasarkissian from Deem, the art director and the brand visionary who has helped many brands in Armenia and abroad to find their vision and voice and presence in the market, to be our moderator. It is my pleasure to invite Sisian Boghossian, the head of tourism committee in Armenia, that taken a bold decision to move from Canada and bring her vision and support to the country, of saying, yes, our soul aches, but we're still welcoming you all.
I want to start by thanking you for accepting our invitation to put a spotlight on Armenia, which, you know, it's in all our hearts. So, with your permission, I want to read your bio so I don't mess it up. Yeah. Sisian is a dynamic leader and motivator, known for transforming big ideas into bold realities. With her expertise in marketing, business development, and tourism, she leads teams to exceed ambitious goals. Her recent work focused on rebranding Armenia as a vibrant post-pandemic tourism destination through authentic storytelling. So let's start our conversation. Following the crisis, what was your approach for a long-term strategy to restart tourism in Armenia?
Good evening. Thank you. So I was appointed to my role in January of 2022, fairly closely following the pandemic. And of course, towards the end of 2020, we had just gone through a war. So there was a lot of negative feelings that was associated with both those that were living in Armenia, including the diaspora that was outside the country, but also when it came to anybody and everybody that had heard, if they had heard about Armenia, it was a year following a lot of negative news in the media. And so it was a very challenging time of how do we tell the story of who Armenia is, what Armenia has to offer in a positive way to people who can't distinguish between Armenia, Romania, and Albania. And so it was very important for us to really tell people who are we and why are we welcoming you to this country and why should you come? And so I had been to Armenia many times as a tourist. And so I thought I had some idea of what other people could potentially see. But I also knew the spirit of the people, the spirit of the country, the energy that the country brings and it held. And was very close to my heart. And so it was very important for me to be able to showcase that. And so we focused on a few different routes, a few different divisions, I guess, in terms of what is Armenia. It's not just the first Christian nation in the world. We have very much a deep-rooted history. We have a lot to offer. We have beautiful landscapes. We have amazing cuisine and amazing wine. And we have this blossoming adventure tourism sector that's also growing. And so I tried to figure out how do I bring all of this together in a way that made sense and adding a human element of showcasing what we truly had to offer. And I was lucky enough that I came in at a time when we're rebranding the country. There were a lot of new and cool projects happening. And so we went through this rebranding, which for me was very important because, again, branding isn't just a logo. It's not just an expression or a saying. It is the essence of, what can we showcase? It comes through the photos and the videos and the messaging that you give and the way you say it and who's saying it. And so we finally settled on Armenia, the hidden track, which for me held this sort of element of mystery, which was very important. Is how do we showcase this hidden gem, this beautiful country that not many people have heard of, that don't know where it is on a map? And how can we entice people to want to come to a country and discover things that maybe nobody else had seen in their family and friends? And so bringing all of that together was quite special. And we went through a rebranding. We had a new website, and Rafi talked a little bit about, obviously, the importance of digital age. We were coming through with a very, very old website with not enough information about Armenia, and so we were lucky enough to be able to update all of that information and tell a story that was relevant, that spoke to people, that showcased this little tiny country, hidden gem in the Caucasus. And said, hey, it's post-COVID. Are you tired of going to this mass touristic destinations? Why don't you come to Armenia and find out all the cool places you can go, the amazing food you can eat, the amazing wine you can drink, and then go tell all your friends how great it was, and maybe they'll want to come too.
It's an eye-opening strategy, I can say. And some people can say like the visuals might be a little bit controversial, but it seems that the overall strategy worked really well. With this, I want to jump to the segments and ask you what tools and partnerships you were able to get to reach your target audience. How did you manage to involve the local communities in overall your strategy?
So when we're looking at sort of the demographic and who we wanted to come to Armenia, it's important to note that we have about 7 million diasporans living outside of Armenia. Over 60-70% have never been to Armenia. And so that's a really big gap for us because we know that if we have diasporans coming to Armenia, they usually fall in love and they keep coming back. So it was important for us to not forget about them. But it was also important not to just focus on diasporans, but also go after markets that typically may not have been so interested in Armenia, including the European market and countries that are very close by, like the UAE. And so we worked a lot with airlines with opening up new direct flights. That was one of the things that was very important for us because connectivity is a big issue. And so having done that, especially with new airlines like Wizz Air coming to Armenia, it really helped us tap into new markets like Italy, as an example, by adding new direct flights to countries like the UAE. It brought a whole new market for us into the country as well. As a marketer, it was also very important for me to tell us very much a full 360 story about Armenia. So aside from the typical in-person things that we did, such as international expos, we personally went to different countries, brought tour operators together and talked to them about who Armenia is and what Armenia is and why they should bring their customers to Armenia, which I think made quite a big impact. We also started working with PR companies directly in our target countries, including Germany, France, the UAE, Italy. We already had a big segment coming from Russia, Georgia, and Iran, but of course, those are our sort of bread and butter, if you'd like to call them that, and we had a lot of customers or tourists coming from there as well. We brought a lot of journalists to Armenia, a lot of publications. That was also very important for us. We started working with partners like Wizz Air, like Air France and Air Arabia, as an example. We went directly to publications like LA Times, BBC Food, National Geographic. and started telling them a little bit about who Armenia is. And we talked to them enough about it that they became interested, and they started slowly reaching out to us. And we also, let's not forget that it's also important to for content creation of how are we telling that story. So then leaning into what were those human stories that we wanted to tell. Obviously, when you're looking at tourism destinations, having beautiful visuals is something that attracts people and creates intrigue for people to want to come and discover it. So it was important for us to show our beautiful cuisine in a way that was mouth-watering and you can taste it and smell it before you came to Armenia and tried it. So it was leaning into those also narratives and content creation tools that would create interest for these new target markets as well.
So what was the general outcome? Did you face any surprising results, both negative or positive?
You mentioned a little bit about the new branding. So when we came out with the new branding, it was quite controversial, which to me was a little funny because I didn't see any controversy in it. But leave it to Armenians to make everything political. So that was quite fun. For me, again, branding is something that is subjective. Of course, it needs to be based on research and focus groups and all that, which we all, again, it was a 9-month project. Exactly. And it was a 9-month project and we went through many iterations. And so it was important for us to showcase Armenia, again, the way that even I, as a tourist, would also see it. So we tried to showcase sort of the landscapes and the ever evolving and changing country that is Armenia today. But again, the one thing that's important for me when it comes to branding is consistency. So regardless of whether you personally like it or I personally like it or not, it is important for consistent messaging to create a connection between the customer's mind, the target market, and the country. And that was something that was very important for us as well. In terms of some of the results, not that we can take total credit for this, but we did have record-breaking results last year in 2023 with 2.3 million tourists to the country. Majority of that, as many of you know, were Russians, with 50% coming to Armenia. But we also did have some interesting results from the non-Russian markets, which was also important for us because that's where we had spent a lot of our marketing efforts and budget as well, including European countries.
New markets.
Exactly, including European countries like Italy, again, because of new direct flights, but also the UAE. The UAE became quite an important market. We had a lot of residents that were living in the UAE coming to Armenia, really enjoying themselves and then talking about it a lot on social media, which was really important. And so, again, some of the changes that came through, we had a new strategy, we had a new policy, and putting all of this together, I think put Armenia on the map because we also are now getting a lot of earned media versus paid media. So as an example, Armenia was just named as one of the top destinations for 2025 in Lonely Planet. And we didn't, that wasn't paid. We didn't go to them and say, hey, can you talk to, tell how great Armenia is and talk about us and we'll pay you. They approached us and said, we're seeing that there's a lot of information, content, talk about Armenia. And so we really want to showcase you. And so now we're sort of reaping the benefits of that as well. And Armenia was also named as one of the top growing tourism destinations last year by UN Tourism. We were on the top 10 list. So those were all really exciting achievements that we had over last year and the last couple of years.
My last question. If you were to do it all over again, would you change anything or do something differently?
I mean, there's always room for growth. There's always room to learn and to do things better. I think based on the challenges that we had and some restrictions that we had, everything from budget to resources, I think we tried to do or show Armenia in the best light as possible. I think what's really important in Armenia is, and I truly believe this, is that the private sector in Armenia is sort of what the winning formula is. We have such a strong important private sector who is doing a lot of amazing work that is almost supporting the government versus the other way around. And so we try to incorporate, including the private sector as much as we could in decision making. But again, I think the more we can have those open dialogue and communication, the better. And I think that's something that having more resources, that would have been really great to have sort of consistent and open communication and often with the private sector.
Thank you, Sisian, for this really interesting conversation and putting a spotlight on Armenia.